Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of Colonel Enrique Costas, Project Manager, Defense Communications and Army Transmission Systems, welcome to the Change of Charter ceremony for the Product Manager Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems. Please stand by for the National Anthem and invocation delivered by Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Whitfield.
Let us bow in prayer. Giver of life and Almighty Lord our God, today we come to you with deep gratitude in our hearts for all the gifts you give us each day. What an honor to call upon you on behalf of our military community and to know that we not only can, but are invited to ask your presence in our midst. We remember to you Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Whitfield. His time here as the Product Manager of Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems is ending, and he is moving to new places that you have called him to serve. We ask that you keep your hand of grace on him as he heads out to new horizons. Today, we also lift to you a new leader, Lieutenant Colonel Scott Davis. Grant abundant blessings upon him, his spouse Natalie, and his family. I ask that you give him wisdom to weather the storms of his time here and learn from them. Give him a steel backbone to be a man of integrity, and especially to have the compassion that will enable him to be a leader in a way that is redemptive and capable. He will be given this command today. Help him to accept it as a sacred trust, and that he will guard and use it appropriately. I implore your blessings for the men and women of Product Manager Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems, as well as for all of your people who serve and work at Program Executive Office Enterprise Information Systems. Your strength enables us to protect others. Your providence keeps us safe. Help us to turn our hearts towards you each and every day. In the name of the Creator, the Savior, and the Sustainer, amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Whitfield. Ladies and gentlemen, today, Product Manager Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems observes a change of charter in which the reins of responsibility and leadership will pass from Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Whitfield to Lieutenant Colonel Scott Davis. This ceremony is a first for Product Manager West. Since we are not all able to gather together to observe this symbolic change of charter, we are conducting the ceremony virtually for the first time, incorporating social distancing measures. Although we are in unprecedented times, it is important for our PM and the entire Army acquisition community to recognize the tradition of the change of charter ceremony and to continue the PDM West mission. In addition to the many of you within PEO EIS workforce viewing today, we would like to extend a special welcome and thanks to Lieutenant Colonel Whitfield's family and friends, as well as Lieutenant Colonel Davis' family and friends viewing today. We'll also like to recognize and thank Program Executive Officer Mr. Ross Guckert and the Deputy Program Executive Officer, Mr. Brandon Burke, who are watching today. Finally, we'd like to recognize the officers, NCOs, civilians, contractors, and industry partners who make up our PDM West family. Thank you for what you do to support our soldiers every day. At this time, we'll present the Meritorious Service Medal to Lieutenant Colonel Anthony K. Whitfield. Attention to orders. The Meritorious Service Medal is awarded to Lieutenant Colonel Anthony K. Whitfield for his extraordinary contributions while serving as a product manager, Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems from June 2017 through June 2020. During this period, Lieutenant Colonel Whitfield led the acquisition, development, and modernization of strategic satellite terminals, baseband network infrastructure, and payload control systems, achieving unprecedented improvements in the Department of Defense wideband satellite communications architecture. Lieutenant Colonel Whitfield's transformational vision and leadership resulted in a more resilient satellite control architecture and higher capacity ground infrastructure, nearly doubling the available bandwidth for national leadership, the Department of Defense, and deployed forces. Lieutenant Colonel Whitfield's accomplishments reflect great credit upon him, the Program Executive Office, Enterprise Information Systems, the Office of the Assistant Secretary of the Army, Acquisitions, Logistics, and Technology, and the United States Army. Now, Colonel Costas will present a special gift to Lieutenant Colonel Whitfield.
So what you're seeing here is a photograph of a soldier at dawn. What this represents is the reason of our existence as a program management office that delivers capability. Everything we do in this organization is to deliver capability to enable this guy in the center of the picture. So on behalf of the PEO, I would like to extend this small token of appreciation from Mr. Guckert and all the family of PEO EIS for a job well done in carrying on the tradition of excellence, selfless service, and total dedication to deliver capability to the warfighter on time and on target. You'll be missed, Tony, and I know you will be displaying this very proudly in your next assignment.
Mr. Walton Brown, the Deputy Product Manager for Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems, will also present a special gift to Lieutenant Colonel Whitfield.
Sir, on behalf of everyone within the PDM West family, I'd like for you to take this token of our appreciation for your leadership, mentorship, and friendship over the past 3 years. I hope you'll find a special place for it in your future office or home, and when you look at it, you'll think of the good times and the great people that you've served with.
Now, we will execute the change of charter for the Product Manager Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems. The change of charter ceremony, similar to a change of command, is a military tradition. While personnel, equipment, and even missions change, the duties and responsibilities of an incoming commander remain the same, as do the duties and responsibilities of a product manager. Just as this has been done so many times in the past, Today's change of charter ceremony marks the turning of a new page in the PDM West history book. In this event, we take a moment to look back proudly and forward at our leaders, our organization, and ourselves. Usually, we will pass the product manager flag and the charter, symbolizing the passing of the reins of responsibility from outgoing product manager, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Whitfield, to incoming product manager, Lieutenant Colonel Scott Davis. However, in keeping with the social distancing guidance, we will forego that tradition, and I will read the charter, symbolizing the change from Lieutenant Colonel Whitfield to Lieutenant Colonel Davis. Attention to orders. By authority of the Army Acquisition Executive and by the designation of the undersigned as the Program Executive Officer for Enterprise Information Systems, I hereby charter Lieutenant Colonel Davis as the Product Manager for Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems in accordance with the Army Acquisition Management process. As Product Manager for this program, you will perform as the Total Lifecycle Systems Manager, reporting to the Project Manager, Defense Communications and Army Transmission Systems. You will, as the responsible management official, manage your assigned program in a manner consistent with the policies and principles articulated in Department of Defense directives and Army regulations. You are responsible for coordinating with your stakeholders to ensure a system of systems engineering approach necessary for seamless interoperability across the Army and joint enterprises. In addition, you will actively manage all of the lifecycle aspects of your program within approved costs, performance, and schedule baselines to ensure fully supportable systems and capabilities that meet the reliability, availability, and maintainability requirements. You are thereby delegated the full line authority of the Project Manager for Defense Communications and Army Transmission Systems for centralized management of your assigned program. You will be provided with timely decisions by the senior leadership and are expected to be candid and forthcoming without fear of personal consequences. This charter remains in effect until terminated or superseded. Signed by the Honorable Bruce D. Jaddy, Army Acquisition Executive. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Colonel Enrique Costas, Project Manager, Defense Communications and Army Transmission Systems.
It deserves a round of applause, but we are in a very constrained environment today, and I hope that the people that are watching are celebrating this great day. It's a great day indeed for the Army, a great day indeed for POEIS, and a great day indeed for the PMDCATs, and especially for the Product Management Office for the Wideband Enterprise SATCOM systems, because we are celebrating change. It's a great opportunity to go back to our traditions as an Army in the military profession and recognize not only the great contributions from Colonel Whitfield as a leader, a great leader, but also welcome Lieutenant Colonel Davis into the saddle and take the reins of this important mission for the Army. So first, I'd like to thank all the people from the POEI staff. Mr. Gookert, thank you for allowing and lending us your office space in the front office, in the conference room, to do this semi-virtual ceremony to honor this tradition. The POEIS staff that has enabled us with the available technology to televise this or transmit this for everyone to see. And our PMDCAT staff, Scott Sonsbo, Don Johnson, and the rest of the staff to that put this thing together. These things don't happen by a miracle. There's not a magic wand that goes around and everything is magic and it happens. It's the people behind the scenes like you all that make these things happen. So thank you very much. You deserve recognition and a round of applause. We have a long list of invitees, so it's very hard to know who is watching and who's not watching. So maybe I'll get nasty emails if I fail to recognize someone that I missed during the introduction. But I know that first and foremost, from the family, it's the first people that I would like to recognize. And I know not only your daughters are watching, but your adoptive parents are watching. So I know that Tony comes from a military traditional family. So Sergeant First Class retired, correct me if I'm wrong, James is watching. So thank you for watching, sir. And he has a long list of invitees to include alumni from PMDCATS and PEOEIS, Major General Retired Lee Price. So if you're watching, ma'am, thank you for joining us. You're part of the PMDCATS history as the PM during the 2002-2005. Colonel Joel Babbitt, previous PDM West program manager. Also Colonel Troy, Colonel Mark Evans, which used to be the Mission Command Director at ASALT, and Command Sergeant Major Gamble retired, Colonel Troy, and if I forget anyone, please forgive for the long list of distinguished people that have been invited and perhaps are watching. More importantly, for the DCATS family that is watching and the POEIS comrades that are taking time in this Friday afternoon to see this. But I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about the importance of the charter and what that means. I'm going to talk about the mission that this particular office is responsible for. And then I'm going to talk about the people and the leader behind that office during these last 3 years. And then I'm going to give some words of advice and recommendations for the incoming PM as he takes the leadership role. So, charter. The word charter comes from the Latin word charta or carta, means piece of paper. It's just a piece of paper. You can see it. And we are not like a traditional maneuver command that has hundreds of troops line up in a perfect formation with fixed bayonets and all equipment in a parade field with a band and the staff line up with flags. But we still celebrate the Army tradition because this is an important Army responsibility to do under the authority given by law from the Constitution, Title 10, all the way down to the guy executing that mission. So we do a change of charter ceremony. So perhaps you don't have a guide on, but you have a piece of paper. And what that piece of paper means is that you have a lot of responsibility, but you're also given authority. And that authority is delegated. You perhaps may not have formations to maneuver forces, but you have a lot of money. Money as your weapon system. You're responsible to care on how we execute that money. These guys sitting in front of you are acquisition maneuver commanders in my book. They are delegated that awesome responsibility to maneuver through the bureaucratic red tape to deliver capability legally, morally, ethically, and deal with all the pool of stakeholders that may have an opinion of how well it should be done. And they are the ones that are responsible at the end of the day based on what that charter says. And by the way, they're also responsible to call that the emperor might be naked at any given time for not doing some things. So all that responsibility falls under the product managers that take that awesome responsibility, and they volunteer to do that. In contrast with a maneuver commander, they're 3 years in the seat in this case. So that's why we're celebrating here, and everybody should pay close attention of why that's important. So that's why your husbands, daughters, and sons are doing on behalf. Executing that money that the taxpayers are entrusted us to do to deliver capability for the soldier at the end of the day. So let's talk a little bit about the Wideband Enterprise SATCOM systems. It's one of the most complex, it's one of the most globally dispersed, and one with the largest pool of holders that have to be managed on a daily basis. See, Lieutenant Colonel Whitfield and his team executed over $900 million in R&D, procurement, and operations and management. Yes, all my dollars. This is one of the unique PMs in this PEO that has everything in the spectrum before milestone B all the way down to milestone C. And what was the end result? Because it's all about results. In that tenure, Lieutenant Colonel Whitfield delivered over 8 to 9 modernized Earth terminals for the Wideband Global SATCOM constellation. That's a bunch of acronyms. So let me break it down for you in plain English and tactical knuckle dragger terms. So you see in this table, there's a satellite terminal in here. That's a big antenna. So this antenna transmit in 2 bands, military band and another military commercial band. We have 10 satellites in orbit that are in a geostationary position that not only the Army, but the Department of Defense, the Missile Defense Agency, and POTUS, the President of the United States, depends for assured, available comms, no matter what time of the day, no matter the time of the night, to execute national strategic missions. The customers involve SOF, other government agencies, the United States Navy, the Air Force, DISA. Everyone depends on that capability. Up to this point, I didn't know that the Army had some involvement with space. And people joke because we wear the space badge, so they call us Buzz Lightyear or something like that. But I'm telling you, the fact that the Army has a big chunk of that capability as a domain, and the responsibility and trust given to these product managers to execute that mission, that is huge. And it resides on this PEO. So not a lot of people know about that. I like to brag about that because the guys executing that mission, day in and day out, have earned the coveted title of recognized expert and trusted provider for that wideband enterprise SATCOM systems. From the United States Strategic Commander, a COCOM commander, to the United States Army Space Missile Defense Commander, okay, to the State Department, the White House, the Joint Special Operations Command, the United States Special Operations Command, the United States Navy, the Pacific Fleet, the United States Air Force. So, a little secret. The Air Force spent a lot of money building a satellite, put it in a rocket, put it into orbit. The payload control to direct what's inside that satellite, it's based and dependent on the capabilities that PDM West does. A bunch of applications. So in the last year, the DoD delivered the last block of WGS-10 as to complete that constellation. And PDM West was responsible to do the payload characterization and verification test to acknowledge and put that system into fully operational capability. That's a big milestone. Big milestone. They have accomplished and procure all the terminals for the Army, and they will continue to deliver those terminals until 2026 in Korea. We are at the mercy of the Corps of Engineers, but we're meeting our end of the bargain to continue to deliver those. They just recently awarded a sole source contract. Okay, thank you, Dr. Jetty, for signing that JNA to award a worldwide sustainment contract to sustain that capability not only for the Army, but all the services. 2 weeks ago, Camp Arifjan achieved fully operational capability on the first terminal that was delivered. At the beginning of Tony's tenure, they delivered the first wideband training certification system, the first trainer to certify the Army soldiers. These are specialists and sergeants that are entrusted in a facility looking like this to manage one of those antennas and to do the payload control of those satellites 24/7 mission in a classified environment. We used to send soldiers from the schoolhouse directly to those places without any certification. They were training in the system that they were fighting on. Huge risk. Tony's team closed that capability gap by delivering one of those systems at each of the wideband satellite operation centers in Hawaii, in Fort Detrick, Maryland, in Fort Meade, Maryland, in Landstuhl, and Camp Buckner in Okinawa. So massive amount of delivery of capability in the last 3 years. Let me give you a story for those fans of the ERP side of the house. You can have all the applications behind doing compute and store and managing GFABs and doing sustainment, but if you don't have a method to transmit that data, it's like having a dead brick on a wall. So Tony was responsible to take the combat service support very small aperture terminal system, which was the CSS communities network transmission system, and take it to the next step. We only did not transfer the program to PEOC3T successfully, not only transfer that program successfully, but transfer it with money. You don't see these in the Army too often, in which you transfer a program with active ATOs and money to another PEO. So thank you, PEOC3T, for that, Colonel Shane Taylor. You're welcome. You're welcome. So thank you for Tony's team in delivering that. About a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, when the things were heating up in North Korea, we had an operational needs statement. That operational needs statement stated that we needed to deliver rapidly a more capable visa terminal for the Korean Peninsula and follow-on forces. In less than 6 months, flash to bang, from the time we had the requirement, money, contract, and putting boots on the ground to fill that kit, 6 months. Unheard of. Unheard of for a massive investment on that. And ahead of schedule, under budget, with $100 million, was able to deliver for the entire peninsula and the follow-on forces. Again, you're welcome, POC3T. So again, I want to make sure that people have an idea of the magnitude, complexity, and things that the people that Tony Whitfield led, those accomplishments are because of his leadership, are because of the people behind believe in an end state to deliver capability, and at the end of the day, they are aligned to deliver capability for the warfighter on a day in and day out. And that's our only credential that we have. Our credential as acquisition maneuver commanders, it's our trust with our warfighters to understand that when we say we're going to deliver something on time, on target, it's there. And we're not afraid to call the facts. So Tony, I'm going to speak now about Tony. So I've known Tony since he was a desk at the Pentagon. I was a director forward for ASALT when Tony was managing the European Deterrence Initiative. And then at the time, the DASM was Major General Thorogood, now Lieutenant General Thorogood, and we had to brief him one day. And my first experience did not go well with with Major General Thorogood. But I went back to Tony. Tony took the lead, and he was able to craft a brief that succinctly briefed truth to power, what were the facts, and what needed to happen. And from that point on, I knew that Tony coming into the program office was going to be an asset to take the program office to the next step. In terms of looking forward, the research, development, testing, and evaluation that his people have done are going to take the WGS constellation to a more resilient, a more diverse, and a more protected architecture. So you got some big shoes to fill, but that doesn't mean that you have to take that for granted, but to think about it, reflect, and then make your assessment of what's going to be over. So, Colonel Davis, what I'm telling you is listen, learn, assess, and then build on the foundation that this great team has done so you can then carry it over to the next step. It's a great day indeed. Look at the challenges that we have today. Many challenges. And despite those challenges, we have to continue to do our mission. And that's what makes our country great. We have a very diverse organization, and that's the strength of our organization. You all have a great team that is going to support you. Tony, I got something for you. So first of all, I want to give you a card, and you read that at some later time. And then in this bag, it contains some precious liquids that are to be consumed. Not shared with anybody else, but consumed. They're not made out of gold, but they look like gold, like your big heart. Colonel Whitfield is one of the most compassionate, caring leaders and resilient leaders that I've ever met in my 27 years plus in my Army career. Colonel Whitfield is going to head down to Arlington Cemetery. In there, he's going to continue to take care of people, which is one of your greatest strengths, Tony. And I always will admire and learn from you of how you take care of people. And I know we're social distancing, but you're going to get my coin. So, I think I have talked quite a bit. And although this is about change, okay, a word for the PDM West. Change is good. Change is good because with change you got fresh ideas. You have new ways of thinking, and that helps sharpen our bayonet to continue to think outside of the box to get to the next challenges. So again, Tony, on behalf of the Army, on behalf of POEIS, on behalf of the PMDCATS family, Godspeed to you and your family. And you'll always have a friend here in POEIS and in the Army until you decide. I know you're going to succeed in whatever you do. Scott, welcome to the family. Welcome to the saddle. You only got 3 priorities. Deliver capability today on time, on target, prepare for and plan for the future, and take care of people. You got my trust and confidence. Scott, Armor Officer, also logistician, plenty of experience. He comes from being Mr. Jack Daniels XO, so I think we'll have plenty of inside stories of how to get into the decision cycle to ensure that we are meeting ASOT standards in terms of money and obligations in the future. So Scott, we're going to be right aligned on you, but you have my top cover and my total confidence that you're going to do well. My doors open at any given time, so don't be afraid to come. And on behalf of all of us, Tony, well done. Well done.
Thank you, Colonel Costas. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the outgoing Product Manager, Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Whitfield.
First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge God, who is ahead of my life. While this can sometimes seem as a cliche, I can truly say that He has been my comforter, my refuge, and my rock. You see, these past 3 years have been the hardest of my 44 years of living. While I've had more great days than sad, both personally and professionally, I've endured death within and outside of the organization, tragedy, love, loved ones' health problems, broken hearts, and strained relationships. Without God strengthening me, I could not be here before you today. Good afternoon, Mr. Guckert, Mr. Burke, PEO EIS team, mission partners, family, friends, and those of you viewing via the World Wide Web. Thank you for attending today's ceremony. It is an honor and pleasure to be before you today. I want to acknowledge a couple of folks that are tuned in. My father, Command Sergeant Major retired Whitfield, my mother, Persina Whitfield, my sisters, Lorenza Mack, Deborah Cooper, my adopted fathers and mothers, Colonel retired Eli and Sarah Ballard, Command Sergeant Major retired Clifford and Janice Gamble, Sergeant First Class retired James and Catherine Koger, my former PEO, Major General retired Lee Price, and my auntie and uncle, Brigadier General Tia Young and Tracy Young. Most importantly, the apples of my eye, my daughters, Ashley and Aubrey. Product Manager Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems, in one form or another, has been the bedrock for long-haul communications for over 45 years, supporting the National Command leadership, the Department of Defense, and our deployed warfighters. So upon taking command, I was keenly aware of the historical longevity of the program. The common denominator behind the great products and capabilities delivered is the people of the organization. You see, the most important asset of any organization is its people. Product Manager West, thank you for your dedication and pursuit of excellence to provide superior communications. This was no mere feat, and we could not do it alone. I want to thank our mission partners of ASCII, Air Force Wideband Enterprise Terminal Program, Boeing, Booz Allen, Cape Fox, DISA, General Dynamics, L3 Harris, Northrop Grumman, SysTech, and Toby Hanna Army Depot. This is truly a team sport, and I thank you all for your support. During my tenure as the product manager, we lost two great people, and I would like to remember them at this time. TJ Harris and Marie Finley both worked for PDM West. They both were loving and caring, and although they are not here to celebrate with us in the physical, I know they are proud and smiling down upon us. They are not forgotten and are thought of often. I want to thank Altwan Whitfield, the mother of my kids, for pushing me to see that the path that I was on was not the path designated for me by God. Thank you for taking care of our most precious gifts, Ashley and Aubrey. Ashley and Aubrey, thank you for your unconditional love. When I wanted to give up and throw in the towel, each of you out of the blue will call me and say, "Daddy, I love you." Because of you, I have purpose in life. I have something to fight for. I love you, and I'm proud to be your dad. Before I close, I would like to touch on a topic that I feel strongly about. The United States Army is an institution that is diversified by humans of all walks of life. As you are aware, we are fighting a battle of racism, discrimination, and prejudice that can no longer manifest. The most dangerous kind of any hate is the silent hate that turns into an unwarranted action. As I thought about this and what I could do as my part to eradicate, I had to look on the inside. You see, legislation or laws will not fix hate. This is not a political issue or a social issue. It's an internal issue. So I implore each of you to take a look at yourself and do a self-examination. And if there is any racism, discrimination, or prejudice that you have against someone, ask God to remove it and replace it with love. This must be done every day. You see, we can walk around looking good on the outside, but our internal being can be full of evil. For there's a story in the Bible where Jesus went to dine with the Pharisee in Luke 11:37-41, and it reads, "As Jesus was speaking, one of the Pharisees invited him home for a meal. So he went in and took his place at the table. His host was amazed to see that he sat down to eat without first performing the hand-washing ceremony required by the Jewish custom. Then the Lord said to him, 'You Pharisees are so careful to clean the outside of the cup and the dish, but inside you are filthy, full of greed and wickedness. Fools, didn't God make the inside as well as the outside? So clean the inside by giving gifts to the poor, and you will be clean all over. I believe hate, racism, discrimination, and prejudice can be eradicated. It just requires one to look in the mirror. It is summed up in one command, and that is love your neighbor as yourself. Lieutenant Colonel Davis, Natalie, and your 3 sons, I turn over this wonderful program to you. I wish you much success. Continue to push the envelope of excellence and take care of your people. Thank you all. I love you all, and may God bless each and every one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, the product manager for Wideband Enterprise Satellite Systems, Lieutenant Colonel Scott Davis. You're welcome.
Good afternoon. Mr. Guckert, Mr. Burke, Colonel Costas, other distinguished guests, thank you for joining us today. Colonel Costas, Mr. Guckert, thank you both for the trust and opportunity that you're providing for myself and my family to join this great team. I look forward to being a part of this renowned team and the continued support provided to the soldiers and civilians across the Army and the Joint Force. Tony, greatly appreciate the time you've spent spinning me up on the program. You've been a gracious host and mentor, and I'm sure you'll enjoy your well-deserved vacation. I'm confident you will be as successful and fulfilled in your next assignment. Since the beginning of my transition into the team, I noted one significant reoccurring theme. The West team has repeatedly been described as the best, well-running, consistently achieving, and made up of true professionals. Undoubtedly, this is a reflection of Tony's leadership and his care for the people within the team, something that both himself and Colonel Costas have made note of today. It also speaks to the dedication and the professionalism of the individuals, and I look forward to working with them. I look forward to joining the West team in the Program Executive Office, as well as to sharing in the camaraderie and teamwork that defines the organization. I'm grateful for the trust and opportunity provided, and I'm ready to get started. Lastly, a special thank you to my family, my wife Natalie, my 3 sons looking from home, also my parents, and extended family, brothers and sisters viewing from Ohio. So thank you all for being able to dial in as well. And that's all I have. Thank you.
This concludes today's ceremony. Thank you all for attending and have a great day.